Hello everybody and welcome to the channel Out of Ammo, Out of Time. I'm your host Krabby Terror 8 and yes, here we are back in Season 1 of the Investigator Games, Episode 35, The Gathering, with everybody's favourite boxer and brawler, Nathaniel Cho, yes, and yes, it's fantastic to be back at the Gathering for the Investigator Games. The Midnight Masks is on a slight hiatus while we take the brand new Investigators that have been released by Fantasy Flight Games through the Gathering. I'm very excited to do this, and yes, this is the 35th episode of the first season of the Investigator Games. New with a new microphone as well, so I hope people notice the difference in quality. I got a brand new microphone for Father's Day, and I'm using that, so I'm hoping we'll hear an improvement in my audio quality as well. So yes, for those of you who are new to the channel, I welcome you heartily. What is the Investigator Games? Well, if you are new to the channel, it's like the Hunger Games. We take each investigator true solo through a scenario, and in the first season, it is the Gathering, and we see how they go. And depending on how they go, they end up in a league table like this one. And yes, here is everybody from the, I'll just grab it here, it's on my iPad, from the best performer in the first season, which was Safina with 7 points, all the way through to poor old Calvin at the bottom with 3. So you can see quite a range of responses there. So, and then of course they, as in season 2, we then take the same investigators through the Midnight Masks and we add their points together. So what I'd say is if you are new to the channel, I would heartily recommend that you watch the Gathering ones first, and then you can move on to the Midnight Masks and see how the investigators go there. The other thing I would also like to highlight for those of you who don't know, after playing the Gathering more than 30 times, I did an in-depth analysis of the Gathering, which goes into every aspect of this particular scenario of why it's such an important scenario. If you haven't seen that, I would recommend that you have a look at that as well, unless, of course, you are brand new to Arkham Horror, the card game. If you're brand new, you've never played before, I really would recommend that you go and play in real life and do some introductory videos, watch some introductory videos first. And the reason for that is that I'm assuming that you at least know how to play a little bit before you come here. So I'm going to make that assumption. The other thing I just want to point out is I haven't done these new investigators yet. And I was just waiting because I actually got the actual real life cards. I don't like to play digitally until I have the real life versions of them. That's just me. And so I just wanted to make that point as well. So yes, here we are with Nathaniel Cho. So let's just have a look at him as an investigator, and then let's have a look at his starter deck, which it's part of the package. When you buy Nathaniel Cho, you get the cards in the starter deck as well. So they're a little bit more optimized, I would say, than in earlier years where you just had to kind of make up a starter deck. And there were official starter decks, but they were less optimized, I suppose. So Nathaniel Cho Guardian, he's a guardian, he's a boxer, so this tells us something that he's not like other guardians, like Roland or Leo. That he's more about his fists rather than other weapons. So that tells us something about some of the focus for Nathaniel. Now he is traded criminal and warden. So unlike a lot of other guardians as well, he's more criminally oriented, which typically it's the rogues who are sort of more the criminal end of things. But Nathaniel is in the guardian class here. And if we have a look at his stat line, he does very much comply with what we would expect from the guardian class. We're talking real min-max here because his fight is a massive 5. But we can see that his willpower is only 3, which is an average, and then his intellect 2 and his agility is only 2. Strange that his agility would only be 2 given he's a boxer. That doesn't quite fit, I suppose, with what you would expect from a boxer, but anyway, it is what it is. So he really is focused on fighting. So you immediately can see, and this may be where his deck might be more of a challenge, is we're going to have a little bit of trouble, I think, getting clues. So that's going to be a real problem. And I'm not sure that his deck is especially orientated towards getting clues. So I think we're really going to have trouble in places like the cellar because we don't have some of the cards in the Guardian class that allow you to find clues from defeating enemies. So that's going to make things a little bit challenging, I think. But anyway, we'll see how we go. Now, in line with his boxing and those sorts of things, he has a reaction trigger that when you deal damage to an enemy by an event or a fight ability on an event, so that's telling us something there, you deal 1 additional damage. Now that's limited to once per phase. And yes, we can see that his Elder Sign effect is +1, which means that if it's successful during an attack, return an event from your discard pile to your hand. So there's a little bit of recursion there that allows you to keep doing that. So part of Nathaniel Cho's engine, if you like, is using event cards to keep getting additional benefits from fighting. I must fight on. Now he has a very, very high physical strength of 9. His mental strength is on the low side, as we would expect at 6. So he's definitely a fighter, but not so great at taking horror. So yeah, those are his overall stats. Now, if we flip him over, just a little bit about his other stats. He just takes standard deck size. He can take Guardian cards and neutral cards level 0 to 5. So no funny business around his deck building. It's very straightforward. He also has his special cards. Randall Cho, we'll have a look at him. Tommy Malloy, and 1 random basic weakness. We'll have a look at that in a second. So just his backstory. When up-and-coming boxer Nathaniel Cho was offered lots of dough for a title fight, he thought he'd finally hit the big time. But his promoter turned out to be part of the notorious O'Banion gang, and Nathaniel was pressured to fix fights by taking a dive every now and then. His refusal led to his brother Randall's accident. Nathaniel is rightly fed up with the mobsters endangering Arkham citizens on a nightly basis. Now he finds his fists to better use, patrolling the streets and defending others from harm. But he's about to find out there are much more dangerous things that lurk in the shadows of Arkham than simple gangsters. So there you go. There's actually a really nice fit here with the Dunwich Legacy with the O'Banion gang. So I think Nathaniel Cho is a nice fit story-wise with that campaign, given his backstory. No spoilers there. That's just a story sorts of things. So there you go. So that's Nathaniel in a nutshell from that perspective. Now, if we just will flip him back over, if we have a look at his deck now, this is not a deck I have put together. This is the deck, it's the official starter deck from Fantasy Flight Games, and it is, as you would expect, it's got some of what you would expect from a standard Guardian deck. It's got Vicious Blows in there. It's got Dodges in there. It's got Physical Training in there, which is good if you've got the money. And you'll notice that he doesn't have things like Emergency Cash, but there are other cards in here that allow him to get resources. So it's got some of those standard, if you like, Guardian cards in there. But the thing that it has is a whole bunch of spirit-traded cards, which allow Nathaniel to gain benefits. So There's things like Stand Together, where you can gain resources. There's these new cards that go with his deck. Fight, when action begins, gain 2 resources. And remember, when you deal damage to an enemy by an event or a fight ability, you deal additional damage. So playing these as he fights is important. His boxing gloves are a core asset that he carries. He gets +1 while using them, and the reaction trigger after you defeat an enemy, exhaust boxing gloves. Search the top 6 cards of your deck for a spirit event and add it to your hand. So you can see here that having the boxing gloves, there's a bit of an engine here. If you've got boxing gloves on the table, you can then use that to not only get benefits while fighting, but also you're getting event cards. You're generating those, and there's all sorts of spirit event cards. Fast play after you defeat an enemy, draw 2 cards. Here's another one, counterpunch. Fast play after an enemy attacks you, even if that attack was cancelled, this attack targets the attacking enemy. Those sort of things. There's this one, engage and fight. Choose a non-elite enemy at your location or connecting location. Move that enemy to your location, engage it and attack it. So you can see there are lots of cards like that. So you can see there's this sort of engine of using these sorts of spirit event cards to gain additional benefits. 1-2 punch, you get +1 for this attack. If you succeed, you may fight that enemy again, you get +2 and deal +1 damage. So it's sort of like it's mirroring the idea that you're doing a flurry of punches and boxing and things like that. So really interesting, thematically very interesting. I like the fact that there's a Guardian now who's not so much reliant on weaponry like guns or machetes, but literally his hands are his weapons, which makes for a little bit of a change there. Now, some special cards that he has. Randall Cho, Concerned Brother, is an ally, and you can heal damage with him. So he's like a healer. That's really, really helpful. There's also another ally in here, Greet Wagner. I think that's how you say it, Great or Greet. You get +1 fight. After you defeat an enemy, exhaust Greet Wagner, deal 1 damage to her, discover 1 clue at your location. So here we go. We might be helpful to get Greet on the table because we might need to do that. So that's a good one as well. And the other nice thing about these new starter decks is that instead of this being one version of a lot of these cards, there's 2 pretty much of every single one of these cards. So it's a much more properly optimized deck. Now, in terms of the weaknesses, we drew randomly Hypochondria, which is sort of thematically kind of good, I suppose. You can imagine Nathaniel suffering from hypochondria. And the weakness that comes with Nathaniel is Tommy Malloy. It's your classic opponent enemy. They call him the Big Palooka. Nathaniel calls him Scum. So he's a hunter. He takes a bit less damage, but for Nathaniel, he shouldn't be that bad. I mean, he's just basically a bit of a roadblock on the way to whatever goals you're trying to set. So there we go. That's Nathaniel. Pretty strong, I think, Guardian. The only issue I have with this particular deck, as I said, is that he's going to have some difficulty with getting some of the clues. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge, particularly in the cellar, as we know. But it would be better if we have, things like Evidence, for example, is a good card where you defeat an enemy and you can get a clue, that kind of thing. It would be nice to have a few more of those sorts of cards in here, but we're just going to have to make do with what we've got. I'm not sure there's much in the way of intellect pips either. I mean, there's wildcard pips. So we're just going to have to, I think we are going to need to get Greet Wagner, really. If we don't, it's going to make it very difficult for us to get through the entire... I don't think we'll have an issue defeating the Ghoul Priest, punching him out, but we might have difficulty getting some of the victory points we would normally get. So we will see how we go. So I'm going to just close and shuffle that up. Now here we are set out in Octagon. I'll just move us to turn 1. Yeah. The other thing is I've set out the whole of the gathering just so I don't have to do it later. Of course, everybody starts in the study, and you know, the other cards aren't supposed to be on there, but just for the sake of brevity, we always start with them all out, so I don't have to put them out later. And of course, the study disappears. We know that. Yeah, so I think we're all ready to go. We've got our 5 resources. Yes, and Nathaniel's waiting in the study. The crowd is gathered, looking forward to seeing Nathaniel. He's doing his warm-ups, 1-2 punches and things. He's clearly ready to fight. Of course, at the beginning, it's probably more about finding clues than anything, but we'll see how he goes. So I think all we have to do now is just read out the agenda and the act and wait for the horn to go, and then we're ready to go in the Investigator Games. So what's going on? It's late at night, and you're holed up in your study researching the bloody disappearances that have been taking place in the region. A few hours into your research, you hear the sound of strange chanting coming from your parlour down the hall. At the same time, you hear dirt churning as if something were digging beneath the floor. And, trapped, as you leap to investigate, the door to your study vanishes before your eyes, leaving behind only solid wall. You're trapped inside your study until you can find another way out. So there we go. So yes, ready to go. So we've just got to... Oh, there it is. There's the horn. And the crowd goes wild. We are ready to go in the Investigator Games with Nathaniel Cho. Okay, here we go. So, what do we want? What do we want? What do we want? Well, as I said, we want Greet, because I think without Greet we might find it a little bit difficult to get some of the clues in the gathering. We also want the boxing gloves, because they are our core weapon. There aren't any other weapons in this deck. So the boxing gloves, Greet. And then apart from that, obviously a couple of his events which allow him to fight, but also getting physical training would be good, because that will allow us to offset some of the issues around things like a crypt chill and things like that with the resources that we have. So anyway, let's shuffle up and see what we draw. So we're going to draw our 5 cards to start with, and let's see what we get. What do we get? Well, here we go. Now, we don't have the boxing gloves. We don't have Greed. I'm going to be really, really aggressive here, because I really want those. I'm going to throw all of those out and draw another 5. And hopefully we will draw into what we need. And we haven't, but we have got Greed, so that's something. So we've got Greed. That's great. He's very expensive though. Wow, he costs 5. He's a 5 cost asset. We have, yeah, that's quite a handy card as well. 1-2 punch, that's good. Flesh Ward, 4 charges, so that's a 4 charge asset. Dealt damage or horror from an enemy attack, exhaust Flesh Ward, spend a charge and cancel the damage or the horror, and it can soak some up. And Monster Slayer, so that's all great. Okay, so let's put these back in. So the only thing that's kind of unfortunate is, I'll shuffle that up. The only thing that's really unfortunate is we didn't get the boxing gloves. But that's all right. Hopefully there are 2 copies of them. He says that they're both at the bottom of the deck, but hopefully they will pop up, because they're the only weapons we have. Okay, so what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We're here in the study, and I think the thing is that we take our time. I don't think Nathaniel's going to be the fastest investigator in the world, but we do need to set ourselves up particularly. Yeah. So the first action, I'm going to spend the 5. And I'm going to bring out Greet. Okay. So there we go. We get +1 fight, so 6 fight. And if we defeat an enemy, we can discover, we will get a damage onto Greet, but you discover a clue at the location. So that's really awesome. There we go. So that's all our resources used up. So unfortunately, that means we can't use any of these other things except for Monster Flayer. Monster Flayer sounds good, that doesn't it? There should be a card called that, Monster Flayer, but Monster Slayer. So we've got here 2 clues here. So I suppose what we can do is, why don't we just go ahead and see if we can get these. Now I've only got a 2 intellect. I could throw Monster Slayer, but I don't want to. So I might just go ahead, because at the beginning of the gathering, there's no ghoul enemies. So we've got a pretty good chance of actually, with a 2 on, 0 or better, of actually getting them. So let's go ahead and see if we can get the clues. So for our second action, we're going to investigate. And the Chaos Bag gives us a -1, so we don't succeed. And we will investigate again, and Chaos Bag gives us +1, and we do succeed. There we go. We get our first clue. That's brilliant. We then attempted to investigate twice and failed and passed with a +1, and so we got our first clue. So next time, the main thing will be getting that second clue so we can get out of the study and get on with the rest of the gathering. Okay, so let's move from that into the enemy phase, or the Enema phase, as I like to call it. There are no enemies to speak of, so we move into the upkeep phase, and we don't get the boxing gloves. We get counterpunch. Fast. Play after an enemy attacks you, even if that attack was cancelled. This attack targets the attacking enemy. Okay, so you just get to fight, basically. So you could even dodge. You can do this nice thing where you could play a dodge and then you could do a counter punch, just like in boxing. That's what they're getting at. Okay, so that was the upkeep phase. So let's move into the first Mythos phase. Yes, there is a doom down on what's going on. I'll just shuffle up the encounter cards again. Just shuffle them up. There we go. Probably did, but I'm just never 100% sure. Let's see what the encounter deck has for us. Nothing, because just for some reason we have to click on it. And we get Ancient Evils. So it's going to be one of those sorts of games, is it? So let's put another Doom down on the agenda. Okay, so there's already 2 Doom on the agenda. Perfect. Okay, so let's move into the investigation phase. Let's put 3 actions onto Nathaniel. Okay, so what are we going to do? Well, I think the main thing is to get out of the study. So I think it's just a question of just investigating as we did before, and see how we go. So first time, Chaos Bag gives us a -1, so we fail. Second try, Chaos Bag gives us a skull, and that's a pass. There are no ghoul enemies at the location. So it's a 2 versus a 2, and we get the second clue, which means we can throw in those 2 clues. Now, actually, I'm just thinking, sorry, I'll just add that back in. So we've got 1 action left. Now, we could throw them in, get ourselves into the hallway, and then move up to the attic. The other thing we can do is, particularly if we weren't a fighting person, we could probably hold off, because then if a monster appears in the study, we can then kill that monster. Like if we got rats or something, we could then throw in our clues and that monster disappears. But personally, I think with Nathaniel, he's a pretty good fighter, so I don't think we need to worry so much about that. I think actually it's better to get through things as quickly as possible rather than holding off, I think. So I don't think there's any reason for us to wait. The other thing is if we're going to have trouble in the cellar, then we probably want to try and maximize our opportunity of getting other ghouls. And the thing about that, of course, is that if we're not in the hallway, if we do draw one of the other ghouls and we're still in the study, then they in the original gathering, not the return to, then they literally have no place to go and they disappear. So we don't want that to happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw in the 2 clues. There we go. So yep, we can flip this over. So you notice that the edges of your newly purchased rug are tattered and mud-stained. Finding this odd, you shift the furniture aside and pull back the rug. To your surprise, you see the door leading out of your study. You slowly turn the knob and the door swings open, revealing your hallway below. You jump through the doorway, landing on your feet on soft dirt. The door to the study slams shut above you. The smell of burning wood filled the narrow hall, intermingled with the scent of rot and decay. Put into play the set-aside hallway, cellar, attic, and parlour. Discard each enemy in the study. Place the investigator in the hallway. Doink. And get rid of the study. Remove the study from the game. And we can delete the study out. Yes. So here we go. So we can drop that in there. And we can put in the barrier. And we go Agenda 2. Sorry, Act 2A. Here we go. A glowing barrier blocks the path to your parlour. As you move towards it, intense heat forces you to back away. Picking up a handful of dirt, you toss it at the barrier and watch in horror as the dirt incinerates. Perhaps there's something in the cellar or the attic that can help. When the round ends, investigators in the hallway may as a group spend the requisite number of clues, which is 3, to advance. Okay. So there we go. We are now in the hallway, so we can expose the hallway. There we go, 1 shroud, 0. Can't go into the parlour yet. So we've got 1 action left. So we've got a couple of choices. We could move straight up into the attic, but I'm actually thinking we've got a couple of... we're going to get an extra resource, so I think that's fine. I was going to say we need 2 resources, but it's fine. So let's move up into the attic. La-di-da-di-da. Up to the attic. 2 clues. And when we get to the attic, apparently the appearance of haberdashery and paint pots is just too much for us, and we take a horror. The horror. There we go. Okay, so that's the end of our second phase. Second time we've had our actions. So we basically got the second clue. Took us 2 turns to do that, but then we threw in the clues, got ourselves into the hallway, and then just moved up to the attic and took a horror. So that's the end of that. Okay, let's move on. So we move into the enemy phase, and there are no enemies to speak of, which I'm sure Nathaniel's kind of disappointed about, as he likes to bash up enemies. And we move into upkeep. We still don't get our boxing gloves, but we get something called Relentless, which is a 0 cost asset. When you deal excess damage to an enemy, exhaust Relentless, place that excess damage on Relentless, and then you can discard Relentless as a quick action, gain resources equal to that amount of damage on it. That's quite a nice card. That's good, isn't it? A way to get extra resources, which is quite nice. Okay. There we go. So let's move into the Mythos phase now, because of what's it called? The evils. I always forget the name. Whatever it's called. There are already 3 doom down, so we're already flipping this over. Here we go. The house continues to change before your very eyes. The walls have decayed, and the ground in many rooms has turned to dirt. It's almost as if you've been transported somewhere else entirely, although every now and again you recognize elements of your former home. The lead investigator must decide either discards 1 card at random from his or her hand or takes 2 horror. I don't want to take horror. We're not the most robust when it comes to horror. So we'll discard a card at random from our hand. Random discard, and we lose the Relentless. Bugger. Okay, never mind. Nice card to have, but not the end of the world. So then, oh, is that already there? Yes. Wonder why they've... Oh, well. Okay, so let's read the next one. Agenda 2A, Rise of the Ghouls. The floor beneath you is giving away, and you see a vast network of tunnels twisting into the darkness. Below, shapes and silhouettes of strange creatures move swiftly through the tunnels, trying to find a way up. You probably don't want to be here when they do, indeed. Okay, so that's all done. We've just got to click on the encounter deck and see what we get. And let's see, and we get Obscure. You're kidding me. Obscuring Fog. That's actually the worst card we could have got. Oh, no. Oh, dear. So that's now made this a Shroud of 3. That is really a pain in the bum. Ah, boy, because we have no... we've always got his wild card, which would give us a 3. Versus a 3. So, and the other thing is we only successfully investigated, then you can discard Obscuring Fog. Oh. Well, I did say that these starter decks were optimized. I take that back. This starter deck is really not very optimized for solo play, so this is really annoying because the only other way is to get is to defeat enemies to get them, and that hasn't happened so far. So I'm really in a bit of a quandary now about what we do. It's very frustrating. Okay. All right. We'll move into the investigation phase. 3 actions onto Nathaniel. So this here is a 3 shroud, and we're a 2. So we're kind of relying on a +1 or an elder sign. Yes, to do it. I'm not really sure what else we can do because I mean, I can throw in the Monster Slayer, but that feels like a real... but I'm not sure what else to do because if we get an enemy in here, it's fine, but we don't. So I think I'm just going to go and have to investigate. So first action, we get a -1. If you fail, take a horror. Let's do that again. We get a fail, and third time we get a -2, so a total waste of time. Nathaniel's blundering around in the attic in the fog, can't find what he's looking for. This is super duper annoying. Anyway, so a total waste of time. In fact, we took a horror in the process. Oh well, let's keep going. So we move into the enemy phase. Unfortunately, there's no enemies to speak of, so we move into upkeep, and we get Randall. He's an ally, but the problem is we have an ally. Well, I suppose he's got in... We can use him, actually, because he's got a double... We can do a double intellect here, and we can get rid of this Obscuring Fog. I think we're going to have to do that, so that's something anyway. So our concerned brother who can heal us up we're going to be using him for his intellect rather than for his healing abilities. Okay, well, that's good. That's something. So at least we can move forward. So we move into the Mythos phase. First Doom is down. Let's see what the encounter deck has for us. Ah, excellent. Here we go. Great. We get some rats. Excellent. Okay, now we're talking. Okay, good. All right, we can dispatch with these pretty easily. Excellent. Yes. Yes. Now, the thing is, Greet allows you to discover a clue at your location, but you have to successfully investigate. They are not the same thing. So discovery is not successful investigation. So even if that happens, we haven't successfully investigated. Okay. So that's the end of the Mythos phase. So we move into the investigation phase. 3 actions on to Nathaniel. Well, we're obviously going to fight the rats, but we've got lots of all of these things, so that we don't need. 1/2 punch we definitely don't need. We don't need that. +1 damage we don't need. We don't need that. So we don't need any of these. We basically just got to kill these rats, which is really easy. So our first action is we're going to punch the rats to death. We are a 6 versus a 1. So unless we get the auto fail, we're pretty right. So we get a -1, so we succeed. So we kill the rats. Now we after you defeat an enemy, we're going to exhaust Greet and put a damage on Greet and discover 1 clue. There we go. Great. Okay, so that's good. All right, that was our first action. Fantastic. Now for our second action, we are going to investigate straight up. So yes, so we're going to throw in Randall. So that gives us a 2, 3, 4. A 4 versus a 1. I could also throw in this, but I don't want to. I really want to keep this for the Ghoul Priest. So that's a 4 versus a 1. No, what am I saying? It's not a 4 versus a 1, is it? It's a 4 versus a 3. So we better make it a 5 versus a 3 because we don't want to fail this. So a 5v3, that's right, isn't it? 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 versus 3. Chaos Bag, it gives us a tablet, which is -2. There isn't a ghoul enemy, but we succeed. We get the clue. Obscuring Fog goes. And we get our first victory point. And the crowd goes wild. Yes, indeed. We have our first victory point. So that's brilliant. So there we go. So, yep. And then I think for our third action, obviously, we will move back to the hallway. Okay. So, actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay here. And I'm going to... the reason is I'm pretty low on horror. There is a small chance I could draw the... not the icy ghoul, the other ghoul. Anyway, the ghoul that... the flesh eater or whatever he's called. And I don't want to then have to run back to the attic to defeat him. So... I mean, it's unlikely it's going to happen, but it could happen. So I think what I'm better off doing is staying here and drawing a card. And we get the boxing gloves. That's great. Okay, fantastic. Okay, that's what I needed. Okay, so that was a really good round. So the first thing we did was we defeated the rats, which allowed us to get a free clue, Tesla's clue. That was brilliant. Then we threw in a couple of cards and got the second clue. And we got the victory point from the attic. And then we, for our final action, we actually drew a card and we got the boxing gloves. So we can get the boxing gloves on board, which is going to give us a massive 7 fight. Wow, we are going to be really, really good. I don't think we'll have any trouble. The main focus is then how are we going to get the clues down in the cellar. So there we go. All right, so very successful round. Much better than the last one. We move into the enema phase. There are no enemies to speak of, so we move into upkeep. We get a dodge. Not bad. And dodge goes nicely with counter punch. You can dodge and then you can counter punch. So, for example, that's really nice with a retaliate enemy because you can... the enemy you miss for whatever reason. Say you get an auto fail. Enemy retaliates. You can dodge that. And then you could counter punch, I think. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so let's move on to the Mythos phase. There are now 2 Doom down here already. Let's see what the encounter deck has for us. It has more rats. I was just thinking, if only we were down in the cellar, but we wouldn't have been down in the cellar anyway because we were in the hallway. So, yeah, I think we'll just get ourselves down into the cellar. Or maybe we get the boxing gloves and go into the hallway, something like that. Anyway. Okay, more rats. All right, so let's move into the investigation phase. 3 actions on to Nathaniel. So the first action is we will punch these rats. So we are a 6 versus a 1. Chaos Bag gives us a -1, so we kill the rats. We're not going to do this because there's no more clues to discover at this location. Then we are going to, for our second action, I'm going to spend 3. And I'm going to bring out the boxing gloves, which take up 2 hand slots. Again, we could move to the hallway, but then if we need to move back to the attic, I'm going to take the risk, because otherwise it would be good to move into the cellar and start. Yeah, because the problem is, even if we're in the hallway, move into the cellar, we're not going to be investigating the cellar without a monster. So it really doesn't matter, really. So I might stay here again, but I'm going to take a resource. Yep. Okay, so that's our action. We killed the rats, we brought out the boxing gloves, and we got a resource. Very slow, I know, but unfortunately we're never going to be fast. No enemies to speak of. So we move into upkeep and we get glory. After you defeat an enemy, draw 2 cards. Brilliant. Ding, 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 indeed. And I've just realized, yes, you're all screaming at me. There's something even better about this card because it's got 2 intellect pips, so I'll probably be using it for that down in the cellar. Fantastic. Okay, let's move into the third round of the Agenda 2 for the Mythos phase. Let's see what the encounter deck has for us. And it has Grasping Hands, which is not a problem. It's Rotting Remains that we have to be careful about. Test 3. For each point you fail by, take a damage. Now we are at 2. It would be good to make it at least a 3v3. So do we throw in the dodge or I think I might throw in the counter punch because I'm less likely to use that. So that makes it a 3 versus a 3. Chaos Bag gives us an auto fail. So it doesn't matter what. Good job we didn't throw any more in. So we take 3 damage. No big deal. Yeah, no big deal. That's fine. Thank goodness it wasn't Rotting Remains. That would have been very nasty. Okay, let's move into our investigation phase. 3 actions onto Nathaniel. He's a bit battered and bloodied now, but things are okay. So what are we going to do now? The main thing is to get ourselves, 2 actions to get ourselves down to the cellar. There we go. 2 clues. Donk. Now, as we're walking down the stairs into the cellar, unfortunately, the laces in our boxing gloves, we haven't tied them up yet, which was very, very a bit of an oversight. You think Nathaniel will be more disciplined than that, and he stands on one of the laces of his boxing gloves, which trips him up, and he goes tumbling downstairs and takes damage. Ouch. That's another damage. Oh dear. We are looking a bit worse for wear. So we are now here in the cellar. We've got 1 more action to go. It is a Shroud of 4, and we're a 2. So we can make that a 4 versus a 4. Let's go ahead and do it. Let's see if we get it. 4 versus a 4. We need 0 or better. Chaos Bag gives us a -1. If you fail, take a horror. Oh my goodness. That's the second time that's happened. Oh dear. Okay. Well, it was worth a try. We only need 1 more clue. So it's a question of either getting more intellect pips or a monster appears, one of the 2. It'd be really nice to get the Icy Ghoul. That would be perfect, but we shall see. Okay, so let's move into the enemy phase. So yeah, all we did was we moved down to the cellar, we took a damage, then we tried to investigate the cellar and unfortunately took a horror. So we are a bit worse for wear, unfortunately. Enemy phase, no enemies. So we move into upkeep. Yeah, we get another 1-2 punch. So we've got lots of these now. which are good. But yeah. Okay, so let's move into the Mythos Phase. We're now 4 Doom down on here. Let's see what the encounter deck has. And perfect. The encounter deck has a good old Ghoul minion. Good old Ghoul minion. Couldn't hope for a better card, actually. That's, well, apart from the Icy Ghoul. That's going to give us a clue. So that's great. And that's all we need. So the question is, do we try and hang around for another Ghoul and hopefully get the final clue? Probably, well, a Ghoul or a Rats or something. Anything that will allow us to get the final. That would be good. Okay, so that's the Mythos Phase. So we move into the Investigation Phase. 3 actions onto Nathaniel. Let's fight. It's good old Ghoul minion. So we'll use our boxing gloves. If you defeat an enemy, 6 cards to Spirit Event card. Okay. Brilliant. Okay, so we don't need any of these 1-2 punch. Well, we get +1 for fighting, but we don't do +1 damage, do we? So we could use one of these, but the problem is I want to keep these for the Ghoul Priest. I don't want to, because we don't have any vicious blows. So let's just go ahead and just straight up fight. So we are a massive 5-7. 7 versus 2. First action, we will fight, and we fail. We miss. He hasn't got retaliate, has he? No. Second action, fight. Can you believe that? A double auto fail. Oh my goodness. Okay. We are going to spend 2. I didn't expect that. We will spend 2 and bring out the 1-2 punch. So you get +1 for this attack. If you succeed, you may fight the enemy again. You get +2. Okay, so we get 2 goes for this. And you get, oh wow, okay. This is overkill, but anyway. So, okay, we fight. And we succeed. So we do a damage. Then we get to fight again. And we succeed and we kill the Ghoul minion. With a 1-2 punch, we can exhaust Greet. Put a damage on Greet. It's got 1 damage left, which means we discover a clue. There's the 3 clues. Fantastic. Okay, so there we go. And also, after you defeat an enemy, exhaust the boxing gloves. Yeah, nice combos here. Top 6 cards of your deck for a spirit event and add it to your hand. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's not a spirit event, so we can't do that one. That's not a spirit event. That's not a spirit event. That isn't. So it's basically one of these 2. Clean them out. When this action begins, gain 2 resources. Okay, we'll grab that and shuffle the rest up. Okay. All right. Okay, so that's the end of... oh, hold on. When you deal damage to an enemy by an event, which we just did. Is that the first time we've done that? Yes, it is. We haven't used them before. No, that was the first time. I nearly forgot. That's our special ability. So many of these. So also, because we used an event, when you deal damage to an enemy on an event or a fight ability on an event, deal 1 additional damage. Okay, well, didn't need to anyway. We've been bashing them up so quickly, it didn't matter. But that will matter when it comes to the Ghoul Priest. He's just a monster when it comes to killing things, isn't he? Okay. So that was a very strange round because we went to fight the what should have been a very straightforward enemy, and we drew 2 auto fails. So then we needed to use the 1-2 punch to finish it off, which we did, and we got to draw we got a clue through Greet, and we also got a spirit event. So that's great. Okay, so really now we're down to this final clue. So it's really about, I mean, we could throw in the clues now, but I think it would be good to get another clue. So it is the Investigator Games, so we get the other victory point. Okay, so we move into the enemy phase. No enemies to speak of. We move into upkeep. We get a vicious blow. So we are getting ready for the Ghoul Priest. The Ghoul Priest is not going to stand a chance the way where things are. So we will move into the Mythos phase. 5 Doom down. Let's see what the encounter deck has. The encounter deck has Frozen in Fear. Okay. So, yeah. We've just got to get rid of it. So, okay. Okay. We don't want Frozen in Fear, so we need to get rid of that. Okay, so we'll move into the investigation phase. 3 actions on to Nathaniel. We can't investigate at the moment. So I think what we do is we, at the end of your turn, test 3 for Frozen in Fear. So what do we do? Well, we can spend 3 and we can bring out Flesh Ward. So we can bring out Flesh Ward with 4 charges. Okay. So that's, handy to have. That's our first action. And then I think for other 2 actions, we just get 2 resources. So we've got resources. And let's check to do this Frozen in Fear. At the end of your turn, test 3. So we're testing 3, and we are a 3. So it's a 3 versus a 3. I want to pass this 5. So 5v3, -2 or better. Chaos Bag gives us a -1. So we succeed. And we can get rid of Frozen in Fear. Oh, no, that doesn't go in there, does it? Okay. So there we go. We got rid of it. So it was really just a case of bringing out Flesh Ward, getting a couple of resources, and then getting rid of Frozen in Fear. Okay. Still got this clue here. Hopefully we'll get an enemy. Upkeep, we get another Vicious Blow. This is really setting ourselves up for the Ghoul Priest. Let's see. We're around 6 Doom on here. Let's see what the encounter deck has. This is Obscuring Fog. Bloody hell. Another Obscuring Fog. Center back. Oh boy. Okay. Investigation phase. So 3 actions onto Nathaniel. Now, what do we do? Do we hang around waiting for another go? I suppose we could draw cards. We could take resources. And hopefully we get another enemy next time. Because defeating the Ghoul Priest will be relatively straightforward. And it would do really good to get this other clue. So what I might do is I might wait. So I am going to draw a card. And we get Tommy. So Tommy, when Tommy and I would take any amount of damage, reduce that amount to 1. Okay, let's take on Tommy because we can get this final clue. So here we go. Let's punch Tommy out. So he's a fighter. He's pretty pissy, really, isn't he? It's just that you reduce the damage by 1. Okay, well, we've got lots of vicious blows here, so I'm actually thinking we do the old 1-2 punch. So I'm going to spend 2. I'm going to bring out the 1-2 punch. So, so this is a spirit event, so we've got to remember that for this. So you get +1 for this attack. So we are a 5, we are a 6, we are a 7. We're a 7. So we're 7 versus 2. So massive attack. Okay, let's see if we succeed. So we will we'll punch. And yes, we succeed. So we do a damage. Just do 1 damage. Now, because we've done 1 damage, we can... You can deal an additional damage. So we do a 2nd damage. Very nice. We can only do that once, though. And then we can, if you succeed, you may fight that enemy again, +2 and deal +1 damage. So we get to go again. -3, yeah, because we're a 5, 6, 7, and we get 8, 9. Yeah, so we succeed, and we kill Tommy. Tommy is dead. So Tommy is defeated. Oh, hold on. Wait. When Tommy would take any amount of damage, reduce it by 1. Sorry, so that should have been 1. And then... so we did... What did we do? Yeah, yeah, because we would do 2 damage. Which means we only do 1 damage again, isn't it? Because we haven't defeated an enemy. We've done that. Deal an additional damage. So we did 1 damage. And here we do +1 damage. So we just do another damage. Oh yeah. So he's not dead yet. But we have 1 action left. So we will fight him again. But we need to do 2 damage here. So we're going to have to use a vicious blow on him. Okay. So we will fight him with an additional damage. And we succeed, but we only do 1 more damage, but now we defeat him. Wow, okay. So he actually took a lot more than I thought. So we have defeated him, which means we can... first of all, we can exhaust Greet and defeat Greet with 3 damage, but we get this clue, which means that we get the victory point. Crowd goes wild. And then we can exhaust the boxing gloves. Top 6 cards for a spirit or event card. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 1. Is that a spirit event? It is. That is. That isn't. That isn't. That is. And that is. So one of these. Game resources. Tax. Probably take this one. Okay, that was a lot of combos there. Shuffle that up. So there we go. Whoa. So that was a few combos there that we had to get through to get that. But we eventually defeated Tommy. So first action, we fought him. And we did 2 damage, but we only did 1 damage. Then we used the 1-2 punch to do 2 more damage and 1 damage. Then we used the vicious blow to do the 3rd damage, which meant we got the clue. We got an extra event. So wow, that was quite a carry on there. We're a bit depleted in cards, so we will see how we go. Okay, so a lot of combos here with Nathaniel to follow up, but that's fine. So enemy phase, there are no enemies to speak of, so we move into upkeep. We get another flesh ward. Oh, I've got 1 flesh ward, so yep. Now we could throw in the... So now we've got a choice here. We could throw in our 3 clues, but I'm thinking we should probably get a few more cards. So I won't throw in the clues this time. But then again, I'm just thinking if we don't do that... Oh, we need to be back in the hallway anyway, so we can't do that. Okay, so we will just keep going. Okay, that was the end of the upkeep phase. So next time, let's get ourselves into the hallway and let's prepare for the Ghoul Priest. Okay, so we move into the Mythos phase. That's the 7 doom down. So let's flip that over. Okay, a feral beast, roughly humanoid with canine casque and hooves for feet, tears through the ground in front of you. Below the floor, you can see vast tunnels beneath your house. Fiendish howling echoes from deep within the underground caverns. Shuffle the encounter discard pile into the encounter deck. Yep, done. Yes, shuffle those in. Discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until a ghoul enemy is discarded, and we draw that enemy. Okay, so let's hopefully, it would be great to get the Icy Ghoul. I'm not let's see what happens. Okay, shuffle it again. There we go. Ah, it's Ghoul Minion. Bugger. Okay. All right. And now we have They're Getting Out. You hear a crazed howl outside, and suddenly all the creatures turn their attention to that sound. They rush to escape the house, breaking down doors and clawing at everything on their way. At the end of the enemy phase, each unengaged ghoul enemy moves one location towards the parlour, and at the end of the round, place one doom on this agenda for each ghoul enemy in the hallway or parlour. Okay, let's draw from the encounter deck as well. We need to do that, and oh no. Rotting Remains, test 3. 3v3, and we can't use Flesh Ward for that. So so we are a 3. I'm going to throw in these two. So that's a 5 versus a 3. Chaos Bag gives us a +1. What a waste of time. We didn't need them anyway. We don't care about Rotting Remains, but we couldn't afford to. I mean, if we got an auto fail, we would have gone insane. But thankfully, that didn't happen. Okay, let's move into investigation phase. 3 actions. Onto Nathaniel. First action, let's fight the ghoul minion. No hurry here. We're not using vicious blow or anything. Let's just go ahead. So we are a 6. 6 versus 2, -4 or better. Chaos Bag gives us a -1, so we do a damage. And we will do that again. Second action, and we get a 0, so we succeed. So that's the ghoul minion is dead, which means we can exhaust the boxing gloves and look at the top 6 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can draw one of those two, I think. Yeah, Monster Slayer +1 damage. Let's put these ones back. Shuffle them up. There we go. Okay, so that was 2 actions. Third action, let's pop into the hallway. Yes, so we'll be ready for the Ghoul Priest. Okay, cool. All right, move into the enemy phase, and we're not going to go for Leader Chandler. We're in no position to parley with her. No enemies to speak of. So we move into Upkeep, yes, and we get another. I did shuffle it up. We get another event. So yeah, I think we're all good. Yes. So it's the end of the Upkeep phase. Let's throw in our 3 clues. 1, 2, 3, and let's trigger the barrier. Using the barrel from the attic, you carry ice and snow from the cellar and hurl it at the barrier. The barrier sparks and shudders as it consumes the ice, then hisses and fades out of existence. The barrier blocking the passage into the parlour has vanished. Reveal the parlour. Put aside Leader Chandler in the parlour. Oh, hello, Nathaniel. Oh, I know. It would be nice for us to team up, but you never come and talk to me. I don't understand why. And then spawn the set-aside Ghoul Priest in the hallway. Hello, Nathaniel. Oh, put up those jukes. Let's see who's gonna win. Ghoul Priest starts rolling up his sleeves, throws his staff aside. It's gonna be mano a mano. Ghoul Priest versus Nathaniel. Anyway, let's see how they go. All right, so okay, let's move into the Mythos phase. First doom is down on. Why is there a doom there? It's not agenda 2A. Oops, what's going on? Got the wrong card there, haven't I? Ah, Act 3A. Okay. Sorry. Don't know why I put that there. So, Act 3A, what have you done? A woman with a torch stands in your parlor, a glimmer of hatred in her eyes. What have you done to my barrier? She screams, furious. Before you can answer, a ghastly wail sounds behind you, and a creature wearing robes and a deer skull mask tears through the wall, advancing towards you. If the Ghoul Priest is defeated, advance. Okay. Right, so... Yes. So all we need to do is, so there are 2 Doom down on here. Yes, all we need to do now is draw from the encounter deck. Hello? Oh, you're kidding. Ooh, that's not a good card to get. That's the worst time to get that card. Oh, no. Oh, thank goodness we got Flesh Ward. Okay. All right, so 3 actions onto Nathaniel. Ah, you're more afraid of me than I thought. Okay, this is going to be quite an interesting fight now. Okay, so first action. We are frozen in fear, so it takes 2 to fight. We are going to fight the Ghoul Priest. We're going to punch the Ghoul Priest. Okay, so we are going for a fight of 6 versus 4. We're going to make that a 7 versus a 4. We're going to make that an 8 versus a 4. So we're going to make it an 8 versus a 4. So that's a -4 or better. Let's just make sure we've got this. 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, if we do that, we're going to do 1, 2. We're going to do +2. So we'll do 3 points of damage for that. I keep thinking it's 4, but you don't get +1. So, and we'll also, we will do 4 points of damage with all of that, because we also can use our special ability. So as long as we don't auto fail here, we should be pretty right. So let's go ahead. Chaos Bag gives us a skull, which is -1. So we succeed. We succeed. Ow! Right hook to the Ghoul Priest. Massive right. In fact, it's an uppercut. Whammo! Ghoul Priest goes flying through the air. We deal damage. Yeah, we can deal an additional damage. So we do 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 points of damage. Wow. Not bad for a pair of boxing gloves. That is fantastic. Okay. We've got 1 action left. Can we be friends, Nathaniel? So we're going to do it again. So we are a 5. We're a 6 versus a 4. Let's go all in. 7 versus a 4. Do we keep this? After an enemy attacks you, even if the attack was cancelled. So I might keep this, because if we fail, we can absorb it and we can do a counter attack. So I'm going to keep that. So we're going to do a 5, a 6, a 7. A 7 versus a 4. So that's a -3 or better. Chaos Bag gives us a -1. We succeed. We do another point of damage, and the Ghoul Priest goes down. Look at that. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Turn 11. We were a little bit slow, and the reason is just that finding clues is not Nathaniel's thing. So it took a little bit of time. But my goodness, considering he doesn't use anything but boxing gloves, he is quite the fighter. We really had no problem dispatching the Ghoul Priest. The biggest problem we had was actually with our what was he called? Tommy? Was he Tommy Muldoon or something? Was he called? Yeah, with Tommy Malloy, because it took a few tries to get to kill him or defeat him. But yeah, we managed to get all of the clues, which is great. So we get our full complement of 4 victory points. It's a pity that we didn't get the Icy Ghoul or the Ravenous Ghoul or the Flesh Eater or whatever it's called for an extra victory point. So we weren't the fastest, but we got there. So that was great. So thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Next time, we will take Harvey Walters through the Gathering. Really looking forward to that. Harvey Walters is an iconic investigator in the Arkham horror files, being possibly the first investigator ever devised by for the entire Call of Cthulhu role-playing game, etc. So I'm looking forward to taking him through the Gathering. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did, and I will see you next time. But until then, I'm Krabby Terror 8. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.